That's straight on me. All right. We'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is public comment.
The public is here, I see. Unless anyone else wants to give a public comment. Do we have the individual this one?
That's Sandy, she's our IT.
Gotcha.
She's with IT. I mean, unless she, I gave her
High school.
the option to talk if she wants to give any public comment.
No, I was just checking on your meeting.
Thanks, Sandy.
All right, next is approval of the February minutes.
Move that we approve the February minutes.
Second.
That has to be you.
It would have to be David.
Second.
And now we have introduction of new members. So,
Michael, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and then we can all go around it?
Sure. Mike, you can call me Mike. I've been teaching at Mount Lebanon High School since 2003. I teach advanced placement in environmental geoscience. I also teach the academic class as well. And for years, we've been grounded in the community, trying to make this place, the community, a better environmentally speaking place to live and more efficient and sustainable, and by ways of offering free energy audits to homeowners here and through other various school projects. And when I saw an opening, I felt that it was my duty to apply because I would love to bridge the community and the school more so than it is now. So.
Recognized your name. Mike, what's your last name?
Go on.
Thank you so much for taking on one more thing.
Yeah.
I know you've already like probably got a bazillion projects and papers to grade and work to do and the after school hours. So thanks for being with us. I know Commissioner Flynn reached out to the school district and the high school and asked for some more involvement, has been trying to work with some of the environmental clubs and maybe talk to you. And
Well, I had two of his children in class. So
okay.
he and I have a good relationship. And
Yeah.
he found out that I applied. You're the perfect fit. We'll see what happens. We're restructuring the board, but I didn't know what that meant at the time. I still don't know what it means.
We'll explain it. It's on the
All this
agenda
terminology
today.
and jargon is
Yeah, we'll
a
explain
little
it later.
confusing, but it's I'm excited because I teach a population that is very motivated. I think Felix takes the class. I'm not his teacher though, but and these kids want to make change, and I feel like I could be a voice for them and help them integrate their ideas into the community by bringing their concerns to here. Maybe see through some ideas, so.
Perfect,
Yeah.
because there's so much ambition on this board, but just not enough time to carry that through, and not sure if we have the community's buy-in on some of these initiatives. So
Right.
that's really the multifaceted approach the students could take about just, is this idea something you want, or what ideas do you want, and helping get that adoption, which is the political will that's necessary to make change.
Yep.
And then there's also the volunteer hours and time and stuff. But the political will is such an important part, it's such a hard part to kind of get when you're doing any change. And so we had, the youth input on what direction to go.
Yep.
It's
So I'm
great.
here to help.
It's great.
Yeah.
Of course, who would like an agenda on?
Anyone else
paper?
want a copy?
Do you want one you got?
I have one.
Okay. And then
Would everybody like to just go around and give a brief couple sentences to tell David about yourselves and what you do? Yes.
wanna go this way, go around, we have names.
I'm David. I'm a professor in environmental science and engineering in Duquesne. And I moved here 6 years ago.
How long you been on the ESB?
Either just under or just over a year.
Newbie, thanks. Mindy Randy, I'm one of the 5 commissioners, so one of the electeds. I don't vote in this board at all. I'm a liaison and help channel the ideas in this board into things that can plug into the municipal structure and get it done. So I try to balance my kind of like stepping back a little bit and hearing what everyone wants, because you represent the community, and then pushing that forward with my tendency to get involved and give my own ideas as well. But so any ideas that you have at all, feel free to reach out to me directly. text, whatever. I've only been in this liaison position as on this board for 3 months or 2 months. This might be my second meeting. Third meeting, something like that. So I'm still kind of learning a little bit about the initiatives that they've taken on over the past couple of years. Commissioner Flynn had it for the past couple of years. We swapped a couple of things
Yeah.
around.
Nice to meet
But I'm
you.
learning too.
I'm Jen Rick and I've been on the board. We've been here like 2 or 3 years at this point. Yeah. I was fairly new to the board as they were finishing up the climate action plan, which we just recently closed down a 10-year review. I mean, we review it every 10 years. It had been over a decade since it had been looked at. The previous board spent the better part of a year or two really kind of tightening up, focusing and putting together a document that would become the basis for a renewed climate action plan. So we're just kind of coming off of that, wrapping up, I believe, in the fall, kind of when we got rolling onto some other things. My background, I'm a molecular biologist that has kind of found my way into state government a little bit, and that I work for Representative Miller right now. But I would like to see this board, before we absorb into kind of a combined setting, set maybe some core focuses that we want to accomplish. I'm seeing that in our meetings that we spend a lot of like business time and very little time actually working on ESB business. So I think that's something that maybe once we finish the cap, we kind of got on to a couple of other things, and the time wasn't spent like really sinking our teeth in as much. I know Tim's put together some really good proposals that have gone on to commission. And so that's another thing for the newer folks on the board. If there's a topic that's really of interest to you, Sean just did one recently with sidewalks. It's okay to do some of that background work outside of this meeting and then bring it to the group, like a proposal for a new ordinance or changing policy. Is kind of where we've been pretty successful, I think, but I'd love to see us focus and get some stuff done before we are combined with.
That's a great point. I'm gonna just add in, like, most of the other boards I'm on, the work happens outside of these meetings, and these are the meetings to get consensus or see where we want to prioritize, or maybe to make.
See, I don't even think we're doing that.
Yeah.
And that's like, we spend so much time hearing about other things. Like, I've attended a few parks board. Kicking on, and we do too sometimes, but we've also had
There's been a lot of turnover on this board and some big audacious goals that you've been taking on. And so it's hard, I think, but to focus to a couple of things, like you said, work in subcommittees offline on those things, and then bring that to this meeting to vote on it and get it out of this committee to the next level would be the goal, I think, for the rest of the year of how to work.
And I'm Melinda Burdick. I'm on the school board, and I'm also a liaison between this this setting and the school, but more at the administrative level. So I'm glad that you're here, Mike, because you have more student contact. I don't have student contact. I have admin contacts. And that's what I'm here for. Usually a small report about what the district is either doing or envisioning, or a combination of both, for environmental sustainable kinds of action plans. And then I report in board meetings about what you all are doing, because we have liaisons that attend different meetings every month. And this is the one I report on for the district.
I'm Greg Wharton. I work here in Mount Lebanon. I'm the planning and sustainability coordinator. I've been on for just shy under a year. And then we're kind of in the process of just kind of becoming a good liaison. I'm a good liaison to this board. Bonnie was the past liaison to the board for I don't know how many years, but many years. But now, since my position was created last May, it's time for me to, step into that role. But I'm excited, definitely excited. I have a lot to talk about tonight if you'll have me discuss.
So I'm Bonnie Cross. I'm actually the HR manager. There were so many boards, there are so many boards currently that they assigned this to me just because there weren't enough people to go around. So you just kind of got the booby prize.
Great. You have been watching sportings,
but But when they created Craig's position, we're starting to transition. So for this year, we can tag team it a bit, so that there's always someone here, but as the new focus comes in next year and the boards are realigned, there will also be 2 liaisons to each of the new boards, and there's 5 new boards. But that won't be me. It will be Greg and Eric
Miller.
Miller.
Yeah. Relevant.
It'll be a good tag team, Eric and I, so, and Eric also has a lot of good interest points on, you know, environmental sustainability, even though he works primarily with economic development. He gives a lot of good insight, so excited.
Megan Stahl. I've been on the board for about 2 years too. Jen and I started together. And within, I think, the first 2 meetings, I fell into the position of chair because of all the turnover. So I've been kind of trying to keep us on track. I completely agree with you, Jen. I think we were so focused on the cap and we made a lot of progress, and that took a lot of effort, but you guys will see here, we have work plan for 2023 as one of our agenda items tonight, which I think is appropriate and great timing for new member to start. But I think that will be good to really focus our efforts. And my hope is that we can decide on a few of these, not take on all of them, but you know, what are our top priorities? And then hopefully develop subcommittees that can work on these things outside of the meetings and really try to make some good progress on them. But my background, I guess, is my education is in environmental science and urban planning, and I now work for a solar development company. That's it. And then we just have Felix on, right? Is that the only person?
It's our junior board.
Sure. Okay. Hey, Mr. Gallo. I'm sure you probably know who I am already. But I'm a junior at the high school. I'm currently taking Apex with Mr. Scalzo, having a great time. I'm really enjoying the class. And I'm the junior board liaison for the ESB, which means it's largely my responsibility to get in touch with the school club, the environmental club, just keep updating the board on what they're doing, anything they need, and kind of establishing that connection between the board and the students. And yeah, I mean, I'm just here because I have a great interest in this type of thing. That's also why I'm taking Apex this year. So yeah.
Yep.
Felix, congratulations on the hackathon.
Oh yeah, thank you.
It's a hackathon.
It was a school event that they had last.
Oh, okay.
All right. And you are actually next, Felix. Do you have anything to report on?
Yeah, so I have a couple things. I know that the March meeting didn't happen, but in late February, the school district or the environmental club was kind of like a tandem effort. I think we established a sustainability website, which is now available to the public, I believe. Right now it's still a draft, but there's a couple of graphs detailing some environmental statistics like water use, energy use, stuff like that. It also details some ongoing projects at the high school and some completed projects. So for some examples of the ongoing projects, there's new lighting projects, and they're also trying to implement EV charging stations, electrical vehicle charging stations. And then in terms of some completed projects, we've also installed bottle fillers and bike racks. And I also have a little bit on the environmental club's processes right now. So right now, Earth Day is coming up, and there's also something that we do called School in the Park, where students basically volunteer at both of these events. So they would volunteer at Earth Day, and they would also volunteer at School in the Park, helping elementary school kids. And then there's also one more, which is riparian buffer planting in Bird Park. So yeah, that's what's going on with the environmental club. And then actually, I also just was reminded by Mr. Gallo of what we did recently with the energy audit project. So every Apex student was required to do this project where we went into a student's home and we assessed the energy efficiency of their appliances, of their lighting systems, and also their heating, their cooling, stuff like that, and made recommendations to the household to reduce energy costs and also CO2 emissions. So I think it was a really great project. I mean, I definitely learned a lot from it. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Nice. Awesome.
Great, thank you.
Does the riparian buffer planting feed in at all to the community agreement with the National Flood Insurance Program?
I don't believe so. It's a Mount Lebanon Nature Conservancy grant that was just awarded. It was a $16,000 grant that was awarded in September of last year. I can forward you I'm on the Nature Conservancy Board as well. I can forward you the links if you want to read all of the background on it. School in the Park is also a Mount Lebanon Nature Conservancy program that they do every year for third graders. All third graders in the district come through a day of learning of 5 different stations at the park. And they've been doing that for, I think, 40 years now. And it's pretty much volunteer driven. So it's all volunteer driven. So thank you so much for participating in that, Felix.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions on Felix's report? Okay. All right, next, the school board.
Wait, sure, one more. Water refilling stations. Is that just the high school or is that all schools?
I'm not aware about other schools.
Okay,
as far
so
as
high
I know,
school for
there-
now.
So there are water bottle fillers at the high school. I know there's one in 3C. I believe there's also one on 4B now. So yeah, there's numerous.
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
not sure how many the district has installed, but I know the PTAs over the last 5 years have been
Putting them-
funding them, and then the
Okay.
school will. You know, we did that at Foster and a couple at Mellon. So I'm not sure if the district has added others, but I think PTAs were driving that process
Okay,
pre-pandemic at least.
slowly. Yeah. Thanks.
School board report.
So Felix covered what I was going to talk about, which was the sustainability website that the district has put together. And so I would direct everyone to the Mount Lebanon School District.org, mtlsd.net, and they sustainability has its own tab. And so you'll find, like Felix said, ongoing projects has a tab. Some of them will be completed over the summer. We did pay to have the solar sunflower repaired, and it's back up and moving. The completed projects are available for anyone to view also. And so you can see what kinds of kilowatt hours were saved by different initiatives. And so that's what's in the works. We also have a number of pre-decisional things. Those are things that I can mention briefly, but like not a whole lot about because they haven't been decided, but we're working on the budget. We're working on the new superintendent. And we are working on some policy updates and changes as they come about. So those are all things keeping us very busy.
Questions on that? Okay. So next we're into ESB business, which will start with Greg, your update on sustainable city certification.
Okay, so currently they actually finally went live with their new website. So Sustainable PA has been working with Sustainable Pittsburgh. That's kind of who they're channeling through to certify, I would say, municipalities and areas around here. And they completely went through a whole website revamp, assessment revamp, everything. And that was kind of over the late winter, early spring. And they actually had a changeover in their leadership. Jim Price, who used to be in charge of it, went to the borough of Crafton. So there was a whole big waiting game that I had to kind of wait. And so now they're good. They're ready to be, send in all the information, and we're definitely going for gold. Currently we're at silver, but Ian and I actually spent a couple hours last fall going through all of their criteria. And we actually met gold by a good amount
Already,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we just don't have that.
already. And what happened was when I showed Jim that we have all this, all this certifications met, he he told me that they're going through a revamp and you're gonna have to wait. And I was like, great. So we spent all those hours and now we have to spend another couple hours doing the recertification again. It's about 584 questions that we have to answer, provide documentation. And it's also in the timing of like the new website that we're gonna go live with. So it's really a kind of, again, another waiting game. So we're hopefully putting the links from the new website into the assessment criteria and then hopefully getting that gold certification. But yeah, it'll be through Sustainable PA if anyone asks. It'll be if they're looking for some type of other info, it's Sustainable PA. So
Some of this is sort of a domino type of thing because what they require is that you link things from your website to show that you've done this. So, we're doing a new website and that won't go live until May 30th. So the links will have to go to that new website.
but in the new process, the new assessment process, which is nice, is that you can, it's not a one-time request for an assessment, it's ongoing. So I actually started the assessment, did on-ramp questions, things that I can answer kind of on my own. But then it's just, again, waiting for those links to go live. There's some other things that you can upload documentation. So for example, like they asked for an updated comp plan within the last 15 years and we are currently going through one, but the 2013 comp plan will actually work. So that'll be something that we re-upload. And from what I've heard from the Sustainable PA staff is that it's something you can consistently update. So if a link changes on your website, you can go in and it's almost like a dashboard. You can update those links, you can update attachments, which is kind of like a living certification rather than being certified one time and that stays the same until the next time you become certified. That's something you can keep doing over and over. So if you update more and more things, and I'm hoping that we'll see what happens, but we can get to that platinum stage eventually, whenever. But it would be nice to see everything fall into place and then go for recertification whenever we choose to. So, but that is pretty much it for the Sustainable PA certification.
Greg, do you know if that's something that the municipality would like publicize once that happens?
I would absolutely think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely a what do you want to call it? A branding thing. So whenever you get certified, they send you a whole bunch of attachments that you can, add onto your email signatures and throw on your website. So I definitely think that's a branding opportunity to kind of market that out through IPIO and possibly see, some content in the magazine or something we can press out. But my goal was to at least have that done by the end of Q2. So that's my plan through that. And I know with the website, it's pretty much just going to be hopefully answering all the questions. And then once the website's live, just linking all the information and then fully submitting. So, but it'll be, it's probably top of the priority list right there is to get that done, because once it's done, we can then branch out to people and say, this is what we've done. Here's the proof. And it can be, it can be that living document that can fill. So, but that's all I have for that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to field them. So.
Great.
And then next is the work plan. So, Mandy, I don't know if you want to say anything on this, but
Sure, you could, whatever you.
I mean,
It's really whatever, I guess I could start, it's really whatever you want to work on for the next 11 months, because October 1st is the start date for our new board structure. And then the first action item of that structure will be to create the work plan with those 9 members. Later in the agenda today, I'll go into more detail about a transition plan, and we have a lot of support for this. We understand hard transition of the board structure, so I'll talk about that more towards the end of the meeting. But we have 11 months. We can get a lot done if you guys are willing to.
When are they merging?
Get to
Next.
April 1st of next year.
Okay.
Yeah, is the effective date. They'll be advertising for those positions and interviewing a placement before that, but April 1st will be the effective date.
What 2 groups are merging?
Let me talk about it, because I have like a whole 10-minute overview.
I just wanted to make sure I understood the
Okay.
time frame, so we have almost a whole year.
Yeah, so for right now, we have 11 months at least to do some real work, as much as we want to get, you know, our hands dirty and as much time as we have to put into it. And I'm really looking to the, you know, the 7 board members, 4 of them are here today, plus Felix and of course our liaisons, to what you want to do, and I'll support that and put the time in and help however that is. Some of the ideas that we generated, Megan and I generated, were based on what was already in process or what was talked about last year. But it doesn't have to be, we could go back to the cap and flush that out some more. I'll put that under the very bottom. Or anything else that you feel passionate about and want to throw out there. So for a structure, because not all of us have been around for the last year, I can just give a quick overview or ask you all to help me give a quick overview of what the initial ideas we came up with are, and then open it up to other additional ideas. Does that work for everyone? Okay, complete streets and sidewalk policy. Those are 2 policies that are already approved and out of this board. And so I don't see a lot of tangible work that needs to get done unless I'm missing something. We will have questions for you on those 2 policies. I can send them to you and give a more detailed overview of them. They're both very important and dear to my heart, so I'm happy to talk about them, maybe even after this meeting if you have some time. But other than maybe come to a meeting or 2, come to a commission meeting, answer some questions, help kind of when we get stuck on making the revisions, I don't see any real work there. Okay, plastic bag ban. Megan, you want to take that one? Or
Sure. So I brought this up a couple of meetings ago as an idea of something that I thought I would like to try to maybe lead a subcommittee on, because I'm interested in it. I'm not ready to move it forward yet. I feel like it's this information gathering stage, but I know some other municipalities around us have them. Obviously, across the country, there are a lot out there. So what I would like to do is take a look at those other examples and see if it's something that would be a good fit for the municipality. And I think there's also some interest. Can't remember who the email was from. Wasn't there an email about us working with another group on it? And I can't remember who it was, but
maybe was it Connect, maybe the original?
so there's interest in the area, but there's a broad range of do we come with a heavy-handed enforcement type of approach, or do we incentivize it? Do we ban all plastic? Is it just some? So anyway, that's my idea.
Are you familiar with Connect, Michael?
No,
Connect is a regional group that's housed at the University of Pittsburgh, I believe. And they work on things that affect the region, waste, air quality, that type of thing.
A big think tank, multiple municipalities as well as the universities.
Up and coming ideas come out of that.
It's a really good website to look at and maybe look at they've formed a pretty decent climate action plan that municipalities could pick and choose, kind of like a menu for what they might want to pursue in their own.
okay,
With them doing a lot of the GIS mapping or a lot of the emission studies, things like that, that maybe a municipal board wouldn't have access to on their own.
good,
They've also been a great support in building the cap and working with their staff to give us feedback and us, some data and information to form decisions.
And I think on the plastic bag bans, the last meeting you talked about maybe some unintended consequences you came across in your research about banning plastic bags, and that might mean that there's going to be other types of bags that are being used that we really don't want to be the consumption increased on. I was going to bring my demo. I have a water bottle I got from SFO. SFO has, I believe, a single-use plastic ban and required composting for every single vendor at the airport, which is amazing. And I love it and I want it, but now they're selling metal water bottles. So I have a that is, they said you can reuse it as much as you want. It's single use now. So instead of plastic, we have metal single use. And I don't know if that's really better.
Same is true in New York City. We got water and
Out of metal,
it was metal and single-use water.
single use metal water bottle. That's kind of the trend. So it's just a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And a heavy lift. It'll be a heavy lift for sure in terms of time and kind of public opinion. I'm not against it though. I'm very much for it. I just, do we have the appetite for it right now? Be the question on that one. Okay, next one, leaf blower restrictions. Over the past 3 years I've been on commission, I've received several complaints from residents about the number of leaf blowing, hours of leaf blowing, the sound of the leaf blowing, the pollution of the leaf blowing. Did a little bit of research and there are a lot of restrictions across the country on leaf blowers, predominantly 2-stroke or gas leaf blowers. And it's usually from an environmental reason because of the emissions that they're putting off. Electric is strongly preferred in terms of an environmental perspective, and it also has the advantage of being quieter. So do we have the appetite to take on investigating what other municipalities are doing, what's effective, what's not, and then proposing some possible restrictions on the use of leaf blowers? It could be for just commercial, could be for just residential, but that's very complicated to enforce. The pushback for any ordinance and any ban at all, plastic bag ban, leaf blowing ban, the pushback we'll get is always going to be who's going to enforce that ordinance. And the answer is probably the police. Police have a lot of work already. We want to hire more police officers to do that. The answer that I'll say as commissioner is that we probably won't enforce it. It'll probably be a slap on the wrist, or it might be a phone call if we get repeat complaints. Maybe we'll have our code inspector come out, but it'll be a not very enforceable ordinance. But as long as we have the community's appetite, maybe there's some kind of shame that also can kind of come along with it. If people don't want to break the law, I
Could be
think.
something that at least the municipal, I don't know that our municipality uses battery powered.
We have some in the fleet now. We're moving more
But there are
towards it. They
also
like
a
it.
number of contractors that we also work with that do not.
That do not,
use.
100%.
So at the very least, we should do municipal business.
That's something we can pick up. I mean, if you want to,
I mean, I
if
would
anyone
love to
wants to
see it.
write, yeah, whatever that would look like. We need a piece of paper to vote on. So at the end of the day, a policy, an ordinance, a law, or it could be along the lines of a statement, proclamation. We support this. That's not something that we can vote on or enforce, but that's at least a something.
It's like hard to tell my 76-year-old neighbor that he can't use his gas powered leaf blower and he has to go out and buy a new one. Although I give him one to get some quiet.
Yeah.
But for the municipal business and the contracts that you all pursue.
Yes,
At the very.
that could be
least,
soon.
Yeah.
And for residents, there could be a sunset clause, 5 years or whatever it is, 2 years. That's up to you. Air quality.
We also have a lot of hired landscapers around here who are gonna use whatever they.
Well, and so
And then
we saw that with the coal tar ban, right? So the board did a coal tar ban a
Yeah,
couple years ago. There are still a number of folks that will do their driveway and not understand that that's in place. And it is a significant cost increase from what I understand from one of the contractors I stopped and yelled at. But how do you enforce them?
Yeah.
I don't even know the police know about that ordinance I'm certainly not on the look.
we passed it on, but there was intentional, like, we're not gonna be able to enforce this, unless someone calls it in right now, come by. Yes, sure, they will show up, police will show up. But you have to spot the person doing it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It just, the pros and the cons of any ban. Should we go to the air quality monitors? Does anyone want to talk about that?
Jen might be able to do that.
And say what we did and what we could go from
So
here?
we installed Purple Air monitors at numerous sites, most of them with the school district. And if you go to purpleair.com, you can go and see, I think there are 9 or 11 of them. You can look at specifically the air quality at each and every one of these monitors. There was one near Howell that we were
Tim
gonna
emailed.
investigate.
So he emailed me and said there was a little bit of a consistently higher rate, or I would say reading on that. I spoke to PW, our Public Works Facility Supervisor, and currently it is still in the good air quality range. It's again, it's higher than everything else, but it's still significantly lower than the danger zone, I should say. So what he's gonna do is he scheduled it for they're quote unquote maintenance free, but they're still requiring some maintenance. He's actually said he runs into a lot of cobwebs, which can also be a problem of how, why it's higher. It could be a multitude of variable
No, we were
things.
wondering if because there's a residential one nearby that's reading fine, and it is consistently like 20 to 30 points above. So we were wondering even if it was just like near an exhaust fan. or
That's, he said
if-
it could just be repositioned, it could need reset, it actually could be the, I guess the reader, I'm not too technical with these things, but the reader could just be off, it could be miscalibrated, that are reading higher.
Yeah.
But it could be, since they are consistent, because I looked into it for the last week, they are consistent higher numbers, I think like right around like 30 to 40. But there isn't like a spike, which sometimes you see a spike and then it'll come back down, but it's consistently higher. So he mentioned to me that it could just be reading consistently wrong. So he's gonna go ahead and check that out, and then hopefully get back to us, but to reassure everyone that it's still in good air quality range.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I don't think we were ever concerned, but it was,
it's
somebody
just more of a
constantly throwing
curious.
trash.
Yeah,
It was just, why is that, for the last 6 months reading high? So I think the next step is what do we do with that data?
Mhm.
The County Health Department has offered us to co-locate sensors with their calibrated. Their EPA calibrated sensors, so if you want to take it down. we can bring it over to them.
Nice. For free?
Yeah,
Or re-
stick it on the roof for a little while.
Yeah.
Only thing, I'm not sure if the type you have can be relocated and have any internal readings. So,
When those first came online, Andrew Flynn, I had his children in class, and he emailed me, and I've known about the air monitors for a while. And we incorporated them in our class. Not aggressively, but that might be my fault, just really busy and I'm trying to figure out how to use them more, but the students know about them. We, in our atmosphere pollution unit, we talk about particulates and PM10s, PM2.5s, and we look at the data, but we don't really do anything with the data. So when you said, what do we do with the data? That is something that I could do a better job of, to have it more of like a concrete lab that these college level kids look at the
Because you
data.
can
What
download.
can we do with that data though?
you
Are they
can-
graphing it over years to see trends? I don't know, but that's something.
So we installed them and not necessarily having Greg, on staff or any output for them. There wasn't necessary, the intention was that we would be monitoring them. There was a suspicion that particularly at some of the drive and drop schools that we might see some peaks and valleys at pick up and drop off, in some specific weather conditions. But we don't have the capability to really do that analysis, other than us volunteers, like just
Yeah.
dumping them into an Excel sheet on a monthly basis or something. And those are still just like 24-hour averages. So whether it's a committee of us that goes back and studies,
Sounds like a great student project.
it does. And you can just export all of that based on a set time frame. Do you guys use Smell Pittsburgh at all?
No,
That's definitely so on an air quality day. I follow airnow.gov, which is the EPA site. As well as Smell Pittsburgh is an app that you can put on your phone. And you can see the county monitors and then you can see reports across the region. So you can really tell like which way the wind is blowing with any given, and you can track it day to day and people can input information. So it's kind of crowdsourcing air quality
Okay.
around also having those county monitors. And that partly, I believe we approached the county first about putting a monitor somewhere in the central county area, and that was several $100,000 to do. And so the air monitors went in locally because we can do that, as a municipality. But now that we've got them installed and all the data, we don't necessarily have a process in place for doing anything with it.
One other idea we talked about was like creating a dashboard or maybe a link on the website so that we can see it better, because you can go look, but not a lot of people know that, but if it was publicized on the website and the information was summarized in a, readable way for residents.
could Felix get a hold of that link and publicize that on the sustainability website? Is that part of that?
Yeah, we could certainly.
So if I didn't tell my students that, they would have no idea that that even exists. So I don't think it's really publicized at all.
Maybe did like a press release and I feel like there was maybe an article. So it's just so you guys understand, a lot of what went into the cap, you know, was best practice and what groups like Connect or what was going on in sustainability and in other cities, but it was also informed by the survey that the municipality did, and air quality was one of the major concerns for residents. And that I think helped fuel the purple air monitor installation.
And they've only been out, what, it's not been a year, has it?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so we just started, but so
Yeah.
that's right time to like, okay, it's working, we're getting some good data. Now what's the next? You know, let's talk about it. Let's check out the
Does he have
data.
access to the shared drive yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that sounds like we already made a little bit of progress on it and we could do more. I'll go on to the next one. Transition to new board structure. I think I wanted this as a placeholder because there is time and work that the board will need to do over the next year. And the primary area is to help document what the board currently has done historically and what you think is really important to continue moving forward. That can be done in subcommittee. We can be doing it offline and shared docs, but I just want to make sure that we will have a recurring agenda item to talk about that every meeting, transition to new board structure. I don't think we need to necessarily make it part of our work plan, but I wanted to consider it that it is work that we will have to do regardless of whether we, you know, you can put it on your work plan or not, but we're going to do it this year. Next, website and magazine. You guys all had a lot of ideas about that. You want to talk about that
was
one?
basically, we talked a lot about how there's all these, the things we've talked about, these ideas for how we can do things better, or like the coal tar ban, you know, what are the kind of environmental or sustainability related things going on in Mount Lebanon? And how can we have a place where residents can go and look at them all in one place? The grand idea was like, we even have like recommendations for contractors, but I think we moved away from that because you can't do that on a municipal website. But maybe we could at least have resources, like these are the ordinances or policies or statements on these things. And then if you wanted more specific information, like related to contractors, we could direct people to maybe Levo Green or another affiliated like website where they could put, you know, if you want a heat pump in your house, these are the contractors that know how to do it, that sort of thing. So it's really just kind of I think like an ongoing effort to maybe start a place on hopefully the municipal website where we can compile good information for residents to go and look if you want, you know, a new tree in your yard, what's the one that's gonna be best for this local area, whatever, that kind of stuff.
Said new tree in your yard. Right, can you look into, Mount Lebanon has that program that you can, that they'll plant a tree. I think there was a cost associated with it, or they had so many that public works would plant. And I feel like we wanted to find out how often residents are actually using that. There was a money set aside for X number of trees, and my guess is nobody's actually taking advantage of it.
I heard from somebody there's a wait list to get
Is
a
there
tree,
to get a tree?
Yeah. But I don't.
And that's not just replacing a municipal tree on the street.
That's what the wait list is for.
That's
People
what,
want a
yeah.
different tree in their different street tree. But for a fund to get a tree in your yard, that's not a street tree. That's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody knows about that.
It's a big.
That's something we could do. It is.
Well, and it came up when we were talking about the cap, that this thing existed, but it's kind of a bit of a unicorn, so.
So we can work on that, advertising, promoting, making sure there is funding.
Finding out if.
But if you want a
program exists.
tree, the municipality will pay for it and plant it.
I felt like there was so much, like, I think you might still have some cost burden, but they'll come and plant it. That's how I understood it.
Sign me up.
Ed Bud.
Yes, exactly. And the right where to put it.
And then other ideas?
We had talked about taking a field trip to recycling and
Oh,
trash.
Oh,
because
I'm going.
would really like to discuss on this board the contracts for trash haulers. And the potential reintroduction of glass. And the potential to have glass as maybe a separate pickup on the off week of the regular recycling. So we had talked about doing a field trip over to waste management.
So the field trip to waste management won't make any business decisions, but those are two separate things.
Like fact.
Yeah, that's cool. They're both good things. I
Because the
just-
whole
yeah.
reason that we moved away from single streamless glass was contaminating
Yes.
so much of the, I mean, and sure, there are problems with single stream,
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
But now it sounds like we may move back to potentially a
Yes.
glass pickup, which I think would be great for residents. But they're not if it is diluting out the value or the likelihood that the rest of the paper and plastic that they are picking up actually makes it to where that it's not being, contaminated.
So if I may, just jump in on that. The
Yeah.
memo I sent, I don't know, I think it was a couple months ago, when we had this kind of information come back to us, was that we found with the drop-off sites, the glass drop-off sites that are ones up at Village Square, there's a couple in the area. We're finding more of the return on the recycling rate is higher with the glass, obviously, because it's a glass recycling, and the single stream was lower. So I think, I'm not too sure with how the municipal waste collection contract goes, but there's a pretty good tendency that they're gonna accept the glass into the single stream. And I think with that memo is that we were going to hopefully see if we can get some type of campaign out on the recycling saying, keep utilizing these drop-off sites. Yes, it is accepted into the single stream, but go back to the single, or not the single stream, go back to the drop-off sites because you're getting a better recycling rate. So that's just what I've come to the understanding is that it's not definite, but they're leaning pretty hard towards accepting glass back into the single stream. So maybe we can get on top of that and say, before they bring it back in, keep utilizing the drop-off, so.
And so that's definitely Ian's plan is we'll keep the drop off sites and we'll pick up glass on the curb and give residents both the options. Right now, we're still in the negotiations for the contract for next year, January 1st, 2024. We will have a new vendor for waste management that includes recycling and trash. That contract's being negotiated at a regional level with SHACOG. That's our kind of a cog of other municipalities that gets us better pricing. We'll have record low pricing across the state because we use the cog, but the prices are substantially higher across the board. I can talk about trash a lot. I'm gonna try to talk really fast and try to get it to the point. So trash pickup is getting a lot more expensive. Recycling is gonna be maybe about the same. Cardboard is always the most profitable piece, or profitable is not the right word. The highest ROI is from cardboard, but they're willing to take glass. All of the bidders that we've talked to so far are willing to take glass as part of the single stream. We as a municipality could have our own rules. However, we want to do that, we could tell residents no glass. The vendors have told us that they all have new equipment now
So
that
that's
sorts
what
it.
we were asking because.
That sorts it, which is what I saw in California when I toured waste management
And I hope
facility
that that's
for
true.
sorting.
Or are we just
containers.
going back down that same path of 20 years ago or
Yeah.
15 years ago when recycling really got broken? I don't know. And I mean, we only do recycling every other week. I think one of the questions that came up is, was there an opportunity on that off week to do the glass? Like to have the two recycling weeks. One would be the paper plastic, if glass is truly an issue. And that's a question for the waste management.
So according to the Public Works Director, the haulers have absolutely no interest in anything but single stream. And they won't even vote. It's a.
That's what
No
they're
issue.
offering.
So you said, like, we're going down a certain path, we're gonna go with this contract, it's gonna be this way, but we could say we're still no glass pickup, just as a municipal thing.
To deprive
I was just
residents.
asking, right, I agree.
We can specify a lot. So we're gonna negotiate the overall RFP, the request for proposal, and put a bunch of options in, and then we'll get the bids back, and then we'll pick a vendor. Gonna be Republic, or it's gonna be Waste Management, probably, right? One of those two, we'll see. And then within whatever Waste Management offers, we can pick and choose what we want to do out of that. And we can also pick and choose what we want to charge back to our residents. What one of the recommendations is going to be, and what I think the more common practice is gonna be in the region, which is gonna be a huge shift. This is gonna be monumental tax come January 1st. There's gonna be a limited amount of trash you can put in your yard, and it's probably gonna be one black, like you would call it, 72-gallon bin.
Which you could fit 5 buttons in. I mean, it's a big binge.
72, isn't that the standard size? The large standard size. I can look at my
That's like
notes.
No,
3 large trash
Yeah,
bags.
Upper St. Clair, I think, has 96 gallons.
That must be those giant
Oh, massive.
rectangular
Massive.
things that are this high.
I guess we're not going pay to throw then, huh?
Well, we are not going to ever say those words. However, if your house would like the ability for the trash company to pick up additional trash, you need to call that company and negotiate that directly. They will offer that service to you and they will charge you directly. Once a year, you would like 2 72-gallon bins, that's totally fine. You will pay X number of dollars a year for that. And we will pick up 2, and then they'll all have the thing. So
Couches.
is not the
You could chop it and
couches
put it in that bin.
are still allowed. However, they're restricted on the number of times that they're allowed. And it's,
Grass clippings.
I'm not sure, but they could potentially be a green bin pickup as well. That's recycling pickup. Green bin is the, yard waste.
Yes, please do that.
I don't know, but that's what we've asked for. That's what we put in there, and we'll have to see what comes back.
Hopefully in
And if people are
paper
willing to do it, but
Probably in paper bags, although I
as
don't know if the weight of that. would-
liftable.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be clear, I'm completely in support of people recycling their clothes. I would rather that jar of spaghetti sauce, which really come on mine, or wine bottles, end up in a recycling stream, whether I take it to Michael Brothers or PRC, or I put it at the curb. But if that is going to degrade the actual pickup, then I'm not sure it's worth it. So I don't know what we tell people.
I think that is like where we can add value.
Yeah.
We should look at this and explore it more and
Whether we want to put it out to residents as an option.
we'll put it out, or even if we do, and I think this is what you brought up, Greg, like if this is, you can take it here yourself, or you can have it picked up. This is a much better way to go. I mean, then maybe we're just part of that communication effort and education effort. And it's still an option for residents to make that decision, but we can try to help support the better of the two.
I think last year, 2022, we collected 336 tons of glass at the Michael Brothers facility. And I think 97% of that glass was recycled. And then some past years, we collected roughly about the same in the single stream. And I think that was, I had it all notes, I don't have the notes with me, but it was almost less than 50.
Yeah.
So it's
the industry average number is 30s, low 30s.
And I was gonna say, I'm even that's aggressive.
For glass.
for glass.
and that's in the single stream, and then we take it to those drop-off facilities.
Glass is being recycled.
Yes.
He's not saying that 97% of our glass in Mount Lebanon was recycled. He's saying that of the glass that was taken to that place, it's recycled.
No, that's what, oh, I'm sorry, no. No, we don't know how much glass
Yeah,
people
we
are actually
lost a lot of
consuming.
glass.
No, the amount of glass that goes into a single stream.
Mhm.
33% ends up as
Okay,
as
as actual
potential,
glass.
as potentially usable glass in the future. In an isolated stream, single collection, then it's 97. I think the industry average is like 94.
Yeah, because they said that you take a little bit of the plastic caps and then some of the labeling, they said that's a 3% difference, but that's why we could then push out to the residents saying, you have the ability to put glass out at the street, but if you would like to see a better ROI, just have a little Coca-Cola glass bottle and have 3/4 or, a third of it being recycled, but almost all of it being recycled when you take it to a certain thing, just to brainstorming,
Encourage,
just
yeah.
encouragement almost, and not even maybe even encouragement, just like you were just mentioning the shame factor, is that saying like, this is much, much better if you recycle this at a isolated location, so.
Board change.
I am. I have another board meeting at 7:30, which I'm needed to go to, so I generally leave these at an hour.
I should have told you.
Gotcha.
I have an 8 o'clock meeting. I'm happy to call you later. I'm sure you don't want to talk at 9:30 when I'm out of my meeting, but I.
I'll read your minutes.
The meetings are recorded on YouTube, just as a.
You don't want to do that.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll it's with you.
But kind of bouncing on the recycling as well is, I wanted to ask what the availability is for, there's the last location down in Mount Pleasant. We have a contact there that we could possibly get a tour as well. And then also the municipal recycling facility. I think that's on Neville Island. I think that's Waste Management's one. I'm not entirely sure. I think that's Waste Management's. But if I would just kind of see what the availability is for whoever is interested in that. Yeah, field trip. And I was gonna ask in person to see kind of the best availability, email to our absent members to kind of see what their availability is, and then going to the facility saying, hey, and it's most likely going to have to be during business hours. I know that that might be tough for people, but to kind of operate outside of the business hours would be a little tough for them. But I would much rather go to them and say, Monday or Fridays work best, or Wednesdays work best during the mornings or the afternoons, and then they can work something on their end, because the last thing I would want to do is interrupt their operations. So, but I would assume they probably do these multiple times a year or so, but.
So do you want to ask now for like a?
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, I would love to get that on the
Best
books.
time. I know I'm available 8:30 to 5 o'clock Monday through Friday during this hour, so.
You want to wait till school's out maybe? Or is it just more, get more
Yeah, if
hectic?
it's during the school year,
That would
pretty
actually
much out.
help me too.
Okay, June then?
So,
And then vacation, and I'll have to take a look at my calendar, but the best after school. But don't hold up because of me, or just saying.
that's two of the people already saying that in like.
The other alternative would be is if they already have, I would imagine they probably have even a PowerPoint presentation on their equipment. I'd love to go see it in person, but I'd really like to hear about these updates.
I'm taking my students to Waste Management, we toured the landfill. We listened to an engineer talk about new updated landfill technology and engineering, and we did not tour the recycling side of it, just toured the solid waste, and it was amazing. And I highly recommend keeping that in mind too. I don't know what we'll get from that, but
Yeah,
students were amazed at how much science goes into engineering a landfill, the amount of money it costs to do so, and then the laws surrounding what to do with a cap landfill. So it's really beneficial.
Smells like money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said, actually.
Smells like money. That's what they always say. Usually, I have a friend of mine that's a plumber, and so he says that all the time.
So
Jen?
I would be fine with going in June or whenever suits, you know. If it's during the workday, I'll just take off time and go.
Yeah. I think that'd work. So, during the week.
Plus, I think maybe even like a mid-June, after school's out, the weather is probably consistently nicer. I know right now it's consistently nice right now, but yeah, I could definitely reach out, kind of give them a heads up. It would be nice to kind of get everybody to kind of go, but again, also knowing that summer vacations roll around, we could just kind of work around that, so.
yeah.
I'll send out a little
Okay.
email chain on that, just to strictly availability, and see what Deborah and Tim have to say, see what they can do, but.
When is the decision on the waste?
We haven't gotten the bids back yet, so it's probably gonna be a couple months. Honestly, I don't know. Do you know that if we have a deadline and when we have to, I know June 1st, we have to be working with them, but.
Yeah,
Decide by January 1st, I'm sorry.
Find out, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't have a
exactly.
deadline, but I can find out too. Here, I'll see if I find out right now.
Moving on from the recycling one, as well as I had two other kind of topics of discussion, solar and EV. So I know that we kind of been banking on back to the work plan. So right now, currently, I would say solar and EV, I've been working consistently for the last how many months on just looking at some stuff. I actually attended a webinar on a solar, PA Solar Center that they're working with the Connect, actually, they're partnering with Connect, and they're doing a free feasibility study for municipalities that we are going to apply for. And they're basically going to come out and see what sites are feasible for solar. And obviously, we already have some solar panels at the library. I know from past discussions, a lot of people are saying this building would be tough, just with the age of the building. Public safety, golf course, public works, library, not library, but rec center. So there's some opportunities that we can do municipal facilities with solar. But the application deadline, I think, is February 28th. The webinar was, I think, Tuesday. And so we'll be applying for that. Hopefully, I don't know the time frame on when the technically consultants, but the consultants will get back to us for the study. So that's something we're moving forward with, and hopefully see some solar opportunities there, because once I think we're waiting on Duquesne Light, I think at the library currently right now to like interface the solar with the dashboard that we have in the library, but we are hoping to maybe make a little bit of a grid and an educational aspect of like, hey, we have it on the library, we have it like safety, we have it at the rec center, and kind of saying that what we're benefiting off of from solar. So that's obviously once these things go online, but just wanted to update that's the solar center feasibility study is something we are moving forward to and moving forward with. So I kind of wanted to give some updates, but constantly learning about new solar opportunities. There's a lot of, I would say, smaller tidbits of solar, not so much large scale on buildings, but we can do. I don't know if people noticed when my dad noticed yesterday that the parking meters were solar powered. And I said, there's just the little things that gradually.
You drive through South Park, all the
All the lights along the park, Corrigan Road have all the solar. So that's something that definitely the municipality is open for is solar, and then banking off of EV as well. I've attended a ton of grant seminars on just EV charging facilities and infrastructure. There's a lot of NEVI grants, they're called. They're just tons of opportunities there. There's actually one that I think PennDOT is looking to kind of move forward with is transit EV charging stations. Now, I know we only have the one on Parks Way where the Port Authority would station theirs, but that's obviously not our decision to implement that infrastructure. Or I'm sorry, Pittsburgh Regional Transit, and that would be their decision. But that's something obviously we can definitely kind of partner with or do something with. And I know with our municipal fleet electrification, that's definitely something that we're eyeing up currently. But again, that's just ideas for a work plan this year. And I know for me, it's definitely on my things to do. So but those are two other things that I know that weren't on this list, but just thought I should mention that. Someone mentioned the other day about like not water quality, but it's sometimes forgotten thing of people washing cars or washing things in their driveway, and you have your water runoff. So it's another thing that we could talk about with where does your water go? Where does it go from the municipals?
So
Perfect.
yeah, so that's what I wanted to add, and that's why I got on to this board. I've been asking, actually, Andrew put me in touch with a guy named Ian.
Yeah, he's our planner and assistant manager.
Okay, I haven't been able to get a response back since January
Well, okay. Board meeting,
from him.
make sure it's-
But yeah, this has been something that I've been talking about for a while, especially something like revising the stormwater ordinance to the current manual actually explicitly prohibits certain stormwater structures from being counted for credit in our stormwater ordinance. Even though they do appear in the Pennsylvania Best Management Practice Guideline, which is also referenced by the ordinance documentation. And
Um, so yeah, I'd like to see that broadened. Point sources to stormwater system, specifically, didn't want to write it down. Things like, where household, stormwater conveyance goes onto a roadway and then into a storm sewer. Yeah. I was actually surprised to see that the municipality not only allows that, but cut the curb to do that. So that would be interesting to look into. And then see here. Oh, I thought I got these in order, but on the left, it's a little hard to see up on the screen, but this is just one of several pictures that I have of what I assume is fertilizer on sidewalks. Sometimes it's quite a lot. So
We're actually we're washing our dog's feet every time she comes in because it's so bad.
yeah, I take my dog around onto the road because of how much is on the sidewalks.
What is it?
Fertilizer, on other things.
It looks like the road salt, honestly. It's being applied.
Yeah, except
That's
it's
not
summer.
swept up.
So it's not salt. Yeah, I mean, not to get nitpicky, but that's actually violation of federal laws to apply it that way. And then household salt application. So the center is actually, somebody did that. And you'll notice that there's no snow. So this is what was left after all the snow melted. So the next time it rained, that all just went into the storm sewer. And then this is a road. The interesting thing about the one on the right is that's right in one of our flood, our 100-year flood areas. So that is right on top of, that drains directly straight down into a stream. And that is right on top of a waterway. Now, I don't want to give the impression that I don't think that salting is important. You know, something I tell people is, you know, if you think an impact of something is bad, have an accident, get injured, you know, the impact of that is really, really high. But you will notice in both of the pictures in the center and the right, all the snow is gone. So it does seem like there's an awful lot of salt being applied. So I forget if it's Pennsylvania or maybe it's federal DOTs coming out with new guidelines for salting anyway. So just suggesting those, brought up stormwater, and this was something I.
Do you have more slides and stuff you wanna?
No.
Okay, so
This is kind of it right now.
I think this is super important, and I have two people on the Parks Board that have a lot of experience and a lot of passion around this area that want to work on it, and I have at least one person, maybe two, that's applied to boards. It wasn't placed right now, that has a strong background in stormwater management. I think we have a lot of local expertise. We have expertise on staff, and are with our engineers, or they're technically contractors. Gateway's our engineering firm that has expertise as well. But I personally see a strong need for what I'm going to call an ad hoc action committee to research this for 6 months to a year. We could formalize it and make it an advisory committee, but we don't really even need to do that if I get, you know, enough other commission support and municipality support to do some research. I don't know how many other people on this board, or maybe that aren't even here right now, since we're missing a couple of people, have expertise and time and want to dig into it with you, or we can, you know, we can pull them in as well, or we can just go outside of it. But there's a huge benefit to what you're proposing, and I would really appreciate.
I know.
And I do, I mean, I completely agree that, you know, we're under federal consent decree around some of the with water cleanup. Our office just did an event on water with the Pittsburgh Water Collaboratory. And they're actually having a water sampling date, I think, later this month, that the community, that they're kind of, again, crowdsourcing people doing water sampling across tributaries in this region. And you can send it in to them and they will, have it tested and have all that data available. But the salt, as well as how we treat our lawns, I mean, that all in our side of town ends up in Painters Run and then Collier Creek and then ultimately, right into the Ohio River watershed. So, and it's terrible for those street trees that are also planted in that little median, which that's another issue, but yeah, I mean, it's
You can see the effect on the grass too, in some of these places.
Right.
terrible for the roadway.
It does deteriorate.
It's funny that you brought that up, because I have 2 rain barrels and I calculated for my class that one's 60 gallons, one's 40 gallons, and they fill up 4 times a season. And I save about 500 gallons of rainwater entering our storm drain. And I used Pennsylvania American Water rate per 100 gallons, it's like $1.20, and I calculated that I save myself about $6 every season, but I save the municipality in Alcoasand from treating 500 gallons every year. And every year when I get my municipality Mount Lebanon stormwater bill, it's like Shawshank Redemption. I write them a letter. I think that residents should be educated on rain barrels and provided a tax incentive, small as it may be, but just something to push. And like for 6 or 7 years, I get no response. So I just, like last, I don't know, 2 months ago, I paid my bill, it's $94. And I said, again, it used to be this formal letter, but now I just write it on the little check. Or the invoice, and I explained to them, I save 500 gallons of water every year. Can I get a tax break? Not that I want $3 a year tax break, but I feel like people who don't do
Pass
that,
that over.
yeah. So I think
I'm almost
that.
afraid to show this to you. There is a credit.
Here in Mount Lebanon,
Yeah, that's the. That's why I said.
okay, one-time rainbow credit.
It is only one time.
Okay.
I mean.
I did not know that. I'm glad that now I know that. But if I don't know that and I teach the stuff, I'm talking about it. and
Literally
no
no one
one-
does.
And we never responded to you,
No, not once. And
gave you the credit.
yeah, so,
There's a lot of work we can do in this area.
yes.
A lot. I think it
Yes.
could be an ESB work
Right.
plan and it could be an action.
I use
committee.
that water to wash car, I use that water to water my grass, I use the water to water my garden or plants, and why pay for water when I can have it? So if we can sell it as money saving, but also environmental saving, that's just, if you care about money, you care about the environment indirectly, and that's how I spin things. Because you really get the people who are hard nosed. I don't want to go away from my 2-stroke.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if you do that, the payback period off of those electric things are X, Y, and Z. And then and as soon as you bring up finances and it's advantageous to them, they start caring. So that would be pretty awesome if I could jump on board with that.
So I keep hearing one central trend is there are these great programs, there are these things, there are incentives already in place. There are things that we want to do to educate the community, but I feel sometimes that we're maybe lacking the output I mean, we can use the magazine. They are great on social media and stuff like that, but I'm wondering if we even just quarterly try to pick one topic. And I know we've had folks that were previously on the ESB. I know the Lebo Green team that plans Earth Day, that they've all talked about, but could we work with the library to maybe once every 2 months or once a quarter do like
More outreach, more events, more
green
education.
gardens and
Yeah.
rain barrels? And maybe that's just bringing in the PRC who's like got expertise in it.
Right.
But I feel like there's an opportunity there for us to do more, particularly if it's, then made live on the website, like through a webinar or something. And maybe people just won't be responsive to that, but it sounds like there are already a lot of things that we're doing, that it's the communication to the public that we're just missing.
ongoing challenge because it's like, how would people hear that information? Because like you could put it on the library and the same 20 people are gonna come. I'm not saying we should do it. Let's do it anyway, but let's try harder and advertise more.
That
What's the
was-
right
that
way?
was the next thing on here under standing items was, with the climate action plan, we had talked about doing like focus groups. But I think it was focus groups, but also let's get input, but also provide some sort of education, like have a topic every couple months and bring in an expert that talks about the topic for 15 minutes, brief, very brief presentation, and then it's, these are the things you can do. Do you have questions, kind of an
I
interactive
wonder
thing.
if we could work with the library to see if they'd be willing to
100%.
house that. They are always.
They're very, yeah,
But I'm
100%.
wondering if each of us took one
Yeah.
thing and
Right.
organized that, brought in the expert and just made it available to, it doesn't need to be super. formal.
Yeah. And I think if we tried it and it was successful and we continued it, and then maybe every year you did stormwater and you talked about the updates within the past year or the people that missed it, you know what I mean? Like, we could keep it going.
And I don't think we have to do it alone. I mean, there are certainly, I know the Nature Conservancy did a thing on native plants recently. It's really well received.
And one other idea, this is gonna sound preposterous because it's 2023, but the most engagement we've ever received with regards to communication was when we did the communications survey, because we sent it as a mailer to every resident. So not out there in terms of results for engagement. It's about $15,000 to send a mailer to every resident, plus there'd be the cost of printing and creating that mailer. That might be the printing cost of whatever the survey we sent, but the mailing itself is at least $15,000. So it would take some budget, but that's very overcomable amount of money. If we wanted to do a one-time newsletter, here's all these things you might want to know about, in addition to putting them in.
Or is it even just an insert,
Insert in the magazine is easier, cheaper.
The other idea I had too was to involve students in this. Because I think if we could get a couple at each one of them, just hopefully the passion and energy, and they would bring some friends or their parents or whoever, but I do think that would really help if there was some incentive for them to attend or.
So most of them write better than us. I know quite a few.
And kind of piggybacking on that, kind of like I don't know if someone mentioned like a seminar type deal that we can offer, but I actually am in a leadership program through Penn State Extension currently. And when I was in Lancaster for an institute, we had a PA Department of Ag director who basically manages a lot of the agricultural runoff into the Chesapeake Bay. He came and spoke to us about, the importance of the ag aspect of it. And we got to talking afterwards. His wife is from Mount Lebanon, and I told him that I worked for Mount Lebanon, and he was like, "That's great." He goes, "If you need anything on discussion or something like that, I'll point you in the right direction, or I could even come out and help some way, shape, or form." He goes, "I know you guys don't have a lot of ag out there, but he'll help out as possible." So I definitely think that could be a resource. We're mentioning someone in the DEP level, or even the Department of Ag. So I know I was kind of confused at first. I said, "How does the Department of Agriculture relate to my job?" But it absolutely did. So it was, but that's just something we could do, is have somebody come in and maybe offer to the public that maybe a substitute of a meeting one month, we could have a 6:30 to 7:30 or 6:30 to 8 sit down, a Q&A or how do I manage this in my house better? So
We've done that in parks. We've had guest speakers come in for
Guest
an hour before the meeting or even a half an hour and do a deep dive in a topic. It wasn't part of our, it was.
And I think we need to be real strategic in what we want to help put out there, but.
I have a favor to ask. Could I give my report now? I have another meeting at 8 o'clock in one of the other rooms, which means I'm also gonna miss, you guys kind of continue to prioritize this and think through it. But although it's totally fine if it takes a couple of our meetings to do that too, it's on you guys, but it's okay if I jump into commission stuff and then you guys come back. Okay, and again, I'm sorry, I apologize. Usually this meeting isn't now, but they rescheduled it for the break last week. I usually don't have a hard stop. So the Mount Lebanon has many advisory boards. We have 13 to 16, depending on how you count them, advisory boards or authorities or nonprofit entities that the municipality and the commission liaison with. That includes our EMT, includes Mount Lebanon Partnership, that's our CDC for businesses, and includes the library, which is really its own entity. Outreach, which you all probably know, Outreach, the Historical Society. There are 10 kind of Mount Lebanon specific, not required by law boards that have been created over the past couple decades. That's more than double what any other municipality has in the area. And it's just been a lot for, I think a lot for staff, the commission to manage the ideas coming in. And that's resulted over the past probably decade of our board members often feeling very frustrated when they're serving on an advisory board that they're not getting work done or work's not happening as fast as possible. And there's a lot of attrition and turnover. And I know that you guys have experienced that on this board. Well, not all of you were actually here to experience it. Some of the reason I think was frustration for things not happening fast enough. And then also it's just people are volunteers and their lives are busy and things change. So that, you know, it's not really frustrating.
Like we have no
No
budget.
power, no
We have
budget,
no-
influence. And so we really took a step back over the last couple of years and decided, kind of kept asking ourselves, what would best serve the community and how can we realign the advisory boards to serve exactly what we want to focus on as our vision and mission. And then we did a strategic session last 2 weeks ago, maybe, for a whole day offsite, the commission and the department heads, and really drilled into what that means, what we want to focus on. Some of it was from a comp plan. So a lot of strategy work. And what we've come up with are these 5 areas. So we're going to consolidate 10 advisory boards right now that consist of roughly 7 members each to 5 boards that consist of 9 members. And each of those boards will have 2 staff people that will liaison and 1 commissioner that will liaison those boards. The most relevant board for us right here is it's currently going to be called Economic Development and Sustainability, but it's also being kind of termed resiliency. Resiliency is a little more popular in the industry right now. So we're still sort of playing with that, but for now it's Economic Development and Sustainability. It does include historic preservation as a key component of sustainability and economic development. And so it will be 3 boards for us into 1 of 9 people. So what that will look like is that our board right now will operate as it operates until next year. And then there will be several people that are joining boards across that are only on for 1 year. And there will be several people that I actually have the list whose terms are not expiring at the end of this year. Might know who you are. Do you happen to know who you are?
You have the.
I have the list. I can tell you who that is if I pull it up here. Yeah, here we go. David, Tim, I think that's it from ESB is David and Tim. So they would roll automatically into this new board. And there would still be several positions open in the new board for anyone that wanted to reapply for that. Or you could reapply to one of the other boards, and another time I can talk about that or have one-off conversations about that just because I'm running out of time. So we wanted to keep some continuity.
Michael and Deb, who are just joining now.
They're only on 1, we only appointed for 1 year. For them. And really want to encourage them to reapply. Sure. But we were trying to optimize for continuity and experience to make the transition as easy as possible. So that's why we are kind of automatically keeping some of the more tenure folks. That's the who. That kind of automatically happens, and there are several spots for all the boards as well. So what that looks like right now is that one of the tasks that we're asking is that by sometime in the summer, ideally maybe by August 1st, we'll have summarized what our primary work is as a board and what we want to continue, what we want to make sure continues moving forward. We can use whatever format we want. I would suggest kind of putting a large catalog out there of things we've done in the past. So we have it for historical purposes, and then maybe a separate area of these are the most critical things that we want to make sure continue. And then these are some of the nice to haves that we would, assuming you have the bandwidth, like to also continue moving forward. That would be, we could do that mostly offline through some shared documents. shared drive. Like I'm talking too much. You guys want to add anything?
I think you're covering it pretty good.
Yeah, I know it's a huge ask and and change is hard and it's a lot of work, but we really want the boards to be very effective. And I think that this new structure will allow for that. That's the goal, so. And sustainability is near and dear to the municipality, to the commission's heart. So I don't think that our goals will get lost. I think that they might get elevated a little bit. Especially since we have,
I was just gonna say, especially since I was hired.
you were hired, so you have a full-time dedicated employee working on sustainability.
That's exactly what I'm here. So,
That was he's been here 1 year now. Not even quite,
May
not even a year.
25th, May 25th is 1 year.
So when you hire, we've done it a long time. So that's a lot there, but I wanted to kind of leave that out there and answer questions. And then maybe the next meeting or even offline over email, we can start to document.
So I printed out, gave you the handout that talks about it. I can send it to you as well. There's a link in there that you can have to watch. It was discussed at the commission discussion session on Tuesday. So you can go back and actually listen to Ian explaining how it's going to work, so it might help.
I'm sorry if there's no questions. I don't go across the hall. But please email me if you have anything left.
I have like concerns, but I think it's for another discussion, just that we run out of time. Like it's 8 o'clock and we haven't gotten through the agenda yet and we're gonna add 2 more
I'm
boards.
trying to imagine somebody from the historical board really caring about the tree canopy.
But I like the idea of, focus.
Parks spend a ton of time on tree canopy too, so.
Force us to focus more, I think.
I think it'll focus a lot of the work to happen offline in subcommittees, and it'll be, the meeting will be about quorum and reporting in and voting, to get things out, and then there'll be a subcommittee of sustainability that, this is sustainability initiative, that's,
Yeah,
and that,
I definitely think that when they merged the boards together, they did a good job. Like you were saying, it might be tough for historic preservation to understand the tree canopy, but there are sustainable aspects to historic preservation. Whereas at the same thing is there's sustainable aspects to economic development with new businesses and possibly newer developing businesses like a redevelopment. I know we might have a contentious on bank that is being, that was torn down the Dollar General, the bank that was being built. There's the economic development. It's a lot of hand-in-hand stuff. So I definitely think it's going to be a very good mind trust because we're bringing a good mix. It's not just going to be like a full board moving in. So it's going to be hopefully 9 very equally minded people that are open to a lot of things. So I'm excited.
maybe, I didn't know you guys worked on that, we did a whole, lot of work on it.
We've actually talked a lot to Parks about it.
Okay, good, good, seems done.
We've had some cross.
Okay, good,
meetings.
thank you. Great to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Well, the last thing I wanted to say on the last conversation was Claire couldn't be here tonight, but she did email me some ideas. And it was a really long email, so I'm not going to read it, but essentially it boils down to educational opportunities, like, one of them was working with students in high school more to do more educational activities. One was about parks and green space, educating the community on programs, finding out if the municipality has guidelines for trash generation, air pollution. All boils down to what I think, Jen, like what you've basically said, the common theme of there's a lot of good ideas out here, but we need to maybe educate better, come up with a format to do that. So I just wanted to make sure that I passed along her input because she couldn't be here. So I don't know if there's any other ideas that people want to bring up because it's already after 8. My thought would be, like we've talked about a lot, why don't we all go home and like think about this a bit, digest the ideas, and then in the next meeting, we can come up with, do we have top 3 or do we have 6 people that each want to take one, or, something like that, and figure out what the plan is in the next meeting instead of continuing to try to figure it out tonight. Is that okay with everybody?
Maybe each of us can think about something we'd really like to shepherd. And
Sure,
invite
I mean,
others
that's what I really think would be the most valuable. Like, I know this is an advisory committee and, nobody has a ton of time, but I do think that the most effective way that we can make change and get things done is if we each are kind of leading an effort on the side. Or two people leading an effort, which will take a bit of time outside of here, but hopefully, it's things we're either already working on or have help or resources that can help us with these things, so.
And I agree with that educational aspect. I mean, the PIA office is a great resource to just, that you can put out Lebo alerts, Facebook posts, magazine items. I mean, we could definitely get a lot of information out. I even mentioned to Laura one time that we could even have an entire page dedicated to just what's going on in the community, sustainability related. What can you do? And she's obviously received that suggestion and definitely if we're able to provide good content, that's pretty much what they're looking for. We can't just have an entire page to say, we'll get back to you next month, but we can look at something and hopefully think that we can put out good information and people see that. I mean,
And
that's,
having a workable resources page on the municipal website
yep, that's all.
is a really, I think, a big deal, because you can hold something on rain barrels once, but somebody might not be looking for that for 6 months or 6 years, but if you can come back to that, because that information is still, available.
I made for my class, I made a YouTube channel, mostly over COVID to push out video lectures. But I dedicated a lot of my time to making corny YouTube videos like learn how to install a rain barrel or make use of your dehumidifier water, how to install a toilet tummy, or easy ways to save paper, electric versus gasoline lawnmower. And I do my own research and I take like, I'm afraid that education is gonna hit the people that normally would just care like normally without education. We have to figure out how to make people who don't care. And this YouTube, I mean, I'm not like Mr. Beast kind of YouTube. I have kids, so I know all the cool trending YouTubes. So I don't have like, I think
You don't have an
600 views.
Screen.
Yes. But the point is like,
You can have a great spot of running those YouTube videos.
they can come back, like if we can. This is sort of right up my alley in a way where it's like, think of things that you're passionate about, and education streaming is something that I could maybe help spearhead. But being like a storage house, so 6 years from now, we held a seminar on how to install a rain barrel, but we have that on video, and we have some kind of storage website or YouTube channel of I want to see the cost benefit ratio. What's the payback period of an electric lawnmower? Well, Gullo did that, and let's look it up in it. So I like that idea of the education. I think that this all starts with
And I
education.
think to your point, a lot of it is money savings,
Yeah.
I mean,
Most
especially.
people save money.
I have to watch that rain barrel video.
Send it to you.
Yeah, and as we do these things, we keep filing the information. We build a library of a lot of really good resources.
I will tell you, we always turn off our water at the house after an issue when we were traveling a few years ago, but we have 2 rain barrels. And so we also have pretty extensive gardens. So we shut off the water, but I have a nearby neighbor come and water. And they're able to do that, for all our
Same. Oh, I love it,
vegetables
right?
because it's right there, in the yard. I used to have them hooked up to drip hoses, but that kind of went by the wayside. But they're,
Good, well, I think that's, good. Wrap up for the ESB business, and then we kind of already talked about this first item under standing items, climate action plan, community focus groups. I do think I would like to have another discussion on this, maybe when it is available. Or if you wanna think on this, Greg, about kind of what is the next step with the CAP. We went back and forth on it. We put a lot of work into it. At first, it was create an outline, and then we drafted sections, and then I think it was gonna go to a consultant, and then it was not going to a consultant, and we were gonna finish it. Then I heard maybe it's gonna go to staff, so we don't know. we put a lot of work into it and now it's kind of just sitting there in draft form on our shared drive. So I would love to know what the plan is or
Yeah,
if
that's-
it's like, the expectation is that we're gonna.
I've looked into it and that's something that I definitely think we could almost maybe even share to the comp plan consultants to see what if they can implement something into the comp
And I
plan.
think that was the goal of having it done before the comp plan
Yeah.
process, so that that could be interjected at each step.
I know we've mentioned it before in our meetings, and that actually gets on to the next point, skipping the sustainable cities or sustainable certification, if you mind, is we have a board liaison meeting, I think, next Thursday, the 20th. So I don't think we have a liaison. It used to be Sean. Sean is now on the traffic board. I can confirm with Ian to see if we need another board liaison. But would anyone be interested in that becoming the board liaison?
I asked Jen if she wanted to do it and she was, I think, thinking on it, but also. I was hoping Sean was gonna be here and we could talk for a minute.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't sure he was making the jump that quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize that either.
Well, he
Yeah.
couldn't be here tonight and then next
No.
month he's gone, but.
Um,
But we can talk about that. I think it'd be good for us to have somebody, but let's understand like what the level of effort is and then figure it out.
I don't think that's kind of what I wanna mention is not like a deep dive into a whole nother board. I know we just meet next week and it's more of like, it's kind of an update on like what your board has done. I know we've kind of talked about that tonight and kind of figuring out what we want to do. Now, I'm not saying you have to find out what the ESB wants to do by next Thursday. It's just kind of, we discuss a lot of and Sean can mention this to you as well if you discuss with him, but it's a lot of what what we're seeing from like the surveys, things like that, so. But I can definitely follow up on that when I talk to Ian to see what exactly we're talking about. But
what time is that? Craig?
that is, I'm pretty sure 7 p.m. but let me double check real quick.
And is that like a commission?
6:30
Okay,
in room C, right next to work. It basically is. So it actually did go to Sean, I see that, but it's just the survey, they're discussing the surveys that actually just went, the new ones that just went live, they're discussing that. And the aspects of ability, civic engagement, resiliency. They're focused on diving deeper into.
Okay.
What we're looking forward to. If there's anything else, but yeah, 6:30, Thursday, April 20th, next door in the next room over.
can you forward at some point, can you forward the
Sure, do it right now.
Okay, and then. Commission business. I think we've heard that. And then new business, the only other thing that I can think of is the Earth Day, which Bonnie said she sent out a message from. Levo Green, so if you guys want to take a look at that and decide, last year we had a table. We also had some members of the ESP go and help set up tents and help with the preparation, so. I think it'd be great to be involved.
It's April 30th, it's a Sunday. I'm there all day, I've already been corresponding with Abby because of. There are a number of different things, so I'll be happy to help out at the booth.
Yeah, so everyone take a look at that. No need to, commit at this moment, but if you want to figure out if you're available to help and we can coordinate through email.
Wonder if I wish there were a way for us to put together like a one pager of our like top. Highest ranking priorities or things that were identified in each category from the CAP or something like that. And let's figure out by email, maybe if we can staff a table or if we just want to be part of the municipal table, but it wouldn't hurt for the ESB to have some presence there.
Anything else under new business?
I'm going to mention something that's not necessarily related to this, but we are doing a solar residential solar program on May 4th. For anybody that's interested at St. Paul's, which was one of the first organizations here in Pittsburgh to go solar several years ago. They've got some great data on how much they've saved and what they've done as far as weatherization and improving their building with windows and so forth to really cut their costs. And then the solar application on top of it, how much energy savings they've seen. Our focus is going to be residential solar. And the three different flavors of that will be, you know, whether you want to do rooftop or whether you want to designate, you know, through PA switch, how to purchase renewable energy from wind or solar, or how to join a co-op to have somebody really navigate the process for you. So I'm sure we'll be talking to the municipality about getting the flyer out next week.
That's it. Anybody want to make a motion?
I never do it, Jen.
Second.
Yeah. All right.
So I made a number of notes. I'll send an email. It might look like a link farm to some of the things we talked about. But David, I think you're right on with the stormwater thing. It's
Great. Thanks.
I think there's still salt on our street from
Oh, I know there's some.